still fight side by side, back to back, even if it's for the last time.
Hey guys, Apothecon Crazy here, and DLC 4 Revelations is just around the corner. It's coming out next week on PS4 and then a month later on Xbox One and PC. And I wanted to just talk about where we've come in the last 8 years in zombies, because we've come a long way since Nocturne Toten to Revelations. So, let's have a quick discussion. Now, Revelations, I'm assuming, will be one of the best maps, if not the best map Treyarch has ever made for zombies. I am really hoping that it's gonna be, and again, like I said, it probably will be. Now, this will be the last map and the very last time we will ever see these characters. So, going on what Jason Blundell says, he says that this storyline will be over with Revelations, and he has not confirmed what the next story will be in the next Treyarch Call of Duty, nor do we know what the next Treyarch Call of Duty will be. Will it be Black Ops 4? Will it be something completely new? We don't know. But either way, this storyline is ended with Revelations, and it is finished. So this is the last time that we will see our 4 Origins characters of Dempsey, Richtofen, Takeo, and Nikolai. So with that, we're going to talk about the 4 characters first. Our 4 original characters that first showed up in Shi no Numa in World at War. Now, of course, the versions of these characters that we're playing as now are not the same versions of the characters that were in World at War and Black Ops 1 throughout that storyline. However, for the sake of argument, we are going to say that they are the same characters. Because technically they are, it's just a different version in a different universe. Now, it's been 8 years that we've been playing zombies, and 7 years that we've been playing as these 4 characters. When they were first introduced in Shi no Numa, Dempsey was the stereotypical patriot marine, fighting for America, doing nothing but wanting to save his country, and will die before he lets anyone take over his country. But he was also very silly. Zombies used to be not just serious, he used to be very silly and serious at the same time. So he would yell things that were funny, but also very sad and serious at the same time. Next we have Nikolai, the drunk of the group. In the World at War and Black Ops 1 timeline, Nikolai was a drunk, and if you've beaten the Garad Krovi Easter egg, which I'm sure you have, then you know that he still is in that timeline. So, we are introduced to this drunk Russian Nikolai Belinsky, who always gets drunk off vodka. He loves vodka. He's the very stereotypical Russian, just like the stereotypical Tank Dempsey. Then we have Takeo Masaki, who is the stereotypical Japanese soldier fighting for his emperor. And that's pretty much all we have on him, because he was sort of neglected throughout World at War and Black Ops 1, which is disappointing because he had a lot of potential. He could have been one of the most interesting persons in the group. Then we have Dr. Edward Richtofen, possibly the only non-stereotypical character in the group. Dr. Edward Richtofen worked with Group 935 developing teleporters, developing the Wonder Waffle, working on different experimentations with Element 115. And like I said, he's possibly the only character that is not stereotypical in that timeline. He also became schizophrenic as the story progressed. He was very schizophrenic. He heard voices. In some cases, he saw little hallucinations. And last time we saw him was his giant hallucination on Moon when he made us destroy the Earth. Now let's fast forward to the end of Black Ops 2 in Origins, where we first meet our new versions of these characters. Now at first we were like, oh my god, the 4 original characters, they're finally coming back. We're gonna see what's gonna happen. We're gonna see the prequel to what all happened before World at War. But no, that wasn't the case. Little did we know this was a completely new story from Jason Blundell that we had no idea what was going on. And this introduced us to some new gameplay mechanics and everything. But let's just talk about the characters right now. Dempsey was still the hardcore, kick-butt attitude of the group. However, this version of Dempsey had a lot of depth. He had a lot of depth, way more than in World at War and Black Ops 1. He actually had a personality. He cared about things. He wanted to help. He wanted to stop the zombie apocalypse. He just didn't want to kill freak bags. Then there's Nikolai Belinsky. This version of Nikolai Belinsky is not a drunk at all. He has never even touched a drop of vodka, and he hates it. He is determined to help rid the world of zombies, just like the other 3 characters. Next, we have Takeo Masaki, which, when we're introduced to this Origins version of Takeo Masaki, he really is neglected again, just like the last time. However, he does get a good little piece in the intro cutscene, which is pretty cool. But in the game, he is pretty neglected. However, he's not just speaking proverbs again. He's not just saying the same exact thing over and over again. He's not as neglected. He has more lines. He cares about people, and the other characters care about him, and it kind of makes the player care about him too. And then we have the new Dr. Edward Richtofen. Possibly even better than the original one. You know what? No, he is better. Because I always thought that the original Edward Richtofen was pretty annoying. He was an interesting character. He was probably one of the most interesting characters of the original Timelines group of the 4 characters. But he didn't really have a lot of depth. And his voice was just annoying. All he did was just scream and yell and then say that he was hearing voices. But now he actually has some depth and he cares about people. He's not schizophrenic anymore, at least so we think. He starts to say in The Giant later in Black Ops 3, he's starting to hear voices again. But that's hearsay because we're in Origins, he's not schizophrenic. He doesn't hear any hallucinations, audio or visual. He's not really schizophrenic anymore. And he is the good guy. He's not the bad guy anymore. He's actually the good guy in this universe. He's trying to rid the world of the zombies, trying to make it a better place for us all. And I just think right now, he's definitely the most interesting person in this group of characters. Okay, so we've talked about the characters. Now let's talk about the meat of the game. The steak, the filet mignon of the game. The actual gameplay at its core. It's changed a lot since Nocturne Totem, the very first map. The very first map was just an Easter egg after you finish the campaign. They didn't even know it was gonna turn into a massive cult hit that it was. They didn't know it was gonna debut to the critical acclaim that it did either. And so once people decided that, they loved this mini game, they had to make new maps, and they had to innovate. I mean, come on, think back to it. Nocturne Totem. Think back to it. There were no perks. And there was no pack-a-punch. It was just the box. You open a couple doors and you have the entire house. That's it. Nothing else. No pack-a-punch, no perk-colas. All you had was your guns. Then came Zombie Verrucht, the second map, the first ever DLC Zombies map. It introduced us to Perca-Colas, introduced us to the now norm of turning on the power. And that map has got to be probably one of the toughest maps ever, because even though it introduced us to the Perca-Colas, again, there was no pack-punch, and it's so close quarters. So you pretty much need a shotgun to survive. However, in World at War and Black Ops 1, all of the shotguns sucked. None of the shotguns were as good as any of the shotguns as Black Ops 3. In Black Ops 3, all of the shotguns are just completely amazing. Then came Shinonuma, which introduced us to a load of storyline Easter eggs. And this is where the storyline pretty much started. Introduced us to the 4 characters, but of course it introduced us to the Wunderwaffe DG2. The very first Wonder Weapon, I guess you could argue the very first Wonder Weapon is in fact the ray gun, but for sake of argument, let's say that the very first Wonder Weapon was Wunderwaffe. So they introduced us to the DG2 and everyone loved it. After that came Doris, and that was Jason Blundell's very first map. And he did a fine job on it. It introduced us to the Pack-a-Punch, which of course has to be a norm now in every Zombies map. And it was just a lot of fun the very first time that you would play it, the very first time that you upgraded a gun, you would love it. It was just something new and something very innovative that they came up with. Now fast forward to Black Ops 1, and let's fast forward to Ascension, because that's when the new innovation came to be. It introduced us to PhD Flopper and Stamina Up. Stamina Up was and PhD Flopper was of course the fan favorite forever. It still is today, and we all miss it. Now Ascension also brought along with it the very first Easter egg, the very first main Easter egg quest. And no one knew that it even was in the game until they eventually found it. After, I think it was like a month it took us to find it, because we weren't even looking for it. Then we have a nice little map, Moon, to close off the good old storyline in Black Ops 1. Now, after Moon, we never see these characters again. And you know what? Moon is probably one of the best maps in the Zombies storyline. It is probably one of the best maps they've ever created. And I can't wait to see if they're ever going to bring something of Moon back. Like maybe they're going to bring it back in Revelations. It would be the perfect time to do so. But we'll see. Then comes along a little map called Transit. Now, we're not even going to talk about Transit, okay? Because I know no one wants to talk about it. I'll only mention the jet gun, the bus, and the denizens. And we can all pretty much tell what I'm going to say about that. So let's move on to Mob of the Dead. Now, as much as Transit sucks, it did introduce that there are 2 sides to the Easter egg. You can either do Richtofen or Maxis. That is something interesting. But Jimmy Zielinski, did you have to give us Transit? Now, back to Mob of the Dead. We get the 4 Mob of the Dead characters. Sal, DeLuca, and Finn O'Leary are the 2 important ones. And Mob of the Dead, the 4 characters are amazing. The map is amazing. And this is where the real innovation comes. The buildables aren't stupid anymore, like in Transit and Die Rise. The buildables aren't stupid little, oh, here, come get a part, then bring it back, then go get another part, come bring it back and build it, then go get another part, bring it back and build it. No, all the buildables are, pick up all the pieces at once, and then you go crack your knuckles and build it all at once, which is pretty nice, including the shield to kick things off, and of course the Blundergat. Let's get buried and go straight to Origins. Origins, we meet our 4 new universe original 4 characters, and the storyline really starts. This new universe storyline actually starts. It technically started in Mob of the Dead. That's when the storyline started, and that's when it was planned out. But Origins is where we actually figured out that this is a brand new storyline. So, Origins also had brand new buildables. It introduced us to some brand new gameplay mechanics, like wonder weapons that aren't just weapons. Or guns, I mean. And we have the staves, and the Easter egg is interesting, the story is interesting, it's just amazing. Alright, so where we are now in Black Ops 3, Shadows of Evil comes along. Love it or hate it, it is very innovative, and it's probably one of the greatest maps. I don't know if it's the greatest, but in my opinion, it is one of the greatest maps Treyarch has ever made. They did a great job on it. The team that worked on Mob of the Dead worked on it, which makes sense with all of its tiny little Easter eggs, its tediousness, and it's just fantastic. We are introduced to the Apothecons and the Keepers, and everything is a little bit tedious, but at least they're fun to do. Like, at least you actually have stuff to do other than just kill endless waves of zombies, which got boring after a while, which is why they introduced little side quests and reward us for it. This is what fans want, and this is what we love. Now, some people think that it's not just so tedious, and good tedious so much as annoying tedious, and you just don't want to do it. But love it or hate it, like I said, Shadows of Evil, overall, is a good map. They did a good job on the transportation with the rifts. Overall, it's just a great map. Der Eisendrache, again, probably one of the best maps Treyarch has ever created. Der Eisendrache introduced us to the bows. However, the bows are just pretty much reskins of the staves. I know everyone says that, but it is true. They're pretty much just reskins of the staves from Origins. But they are better. They are a little bit better than the staves. They're just not, but they're not as fun to use. Then Zetsubo no Shima introduced us to some brand new bosses. Introduced us to the Thrashers, the Spiders, and that's just Thrashers, whatever. The map was good though. I forgot to mention Shadows of Evil introduced us to Margwas and Parasites and Meatballs and all of that, but I'm sure you got that by yourself. Then we have the one, the only, Gorod Krovi. I don't know if I want to say that this is the best map, Gorod Krovi. I don't know, it's a toss-up in my opinion between Shadows of Evil and Gorod Krovi being the best map that Treyarch has ever made, but it's definitely in my top 2. I have to pick one sooner or later, but I will eventually. Now, Gorod Krovi introduced us to the dragons, which had been so heavily foreshadowed since Origins. And the dragons are a pain, but at least it's not like Transit. There's a way to negate the fire. It's a good map, and the dragons, they're a good little challenge that you have to avoid. The Easter egg is a bit tedious and annoying, but it is simple, not complicated at all, and it's rewarding, unlike the Zetsubo no Shima Easter egg. And so that brings us to Revelations. What will we see in Revelations? I don't know. Probably a mixture of all the maps ever created into one. That's been evident from the sneak peek trailer that we got. And we'll probably be getting a gameplay trailer soon for the map of Revelations. And I can't wait to see that. And I hope you guys are excited for it. I hope you guys are as excited as I am for it. So thanks for watching. If you are still here, please drop a like. I really appreciate it. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.